They told Patton, "You're not cleared for this." He answered with a smile and moved an entire army anyway. One intercepted message, one forbidden decision, and a gamble that could have ended his career or won the war. France, August 1944. Inside the cramped command post of the U.S. Third Army, maps cover every wall like a living battlefield. Pins move hour by hour, tracking an advance so fast it scares even the men commanding it. The air smells of cigarette smoke, engine oil, and something else. Victory mixed with chaos. A signals officer pushes through the doorway, breathing hard. In his hands is a radio intercept stamped with the highest classification level. Intelligence meant only for Eisenhower and a handful of senior commanders at SHAEF. He hesitates. "Sir, this message wasn't addressed to Third Army. You're not technically cleared for this information." Patton doesn't ask twice. He snatches the paper, eyes racing across the lines. For a long moment, he says nothing. Then that familiar, dangerous grin spreads across his face, the grin his staff has learned to fear. "I didn't hear that," he mutters, "and you never told me I wasn't supposed to see this." He turns sharply to his operations officer. "Get me 8th Corps. We're moving. Now." Within hours, the entire Third Army begins executing a maneuver that was never authorized, never coordinated, and never even supposed to be known to Patton. Thousands of men, hundreds of tanks, fueled by a decision built on information he had no right to hold. Allied command is about to learn a brutal truth. Giving Patton information, even by accident, was the same as giving him permission. This is the story of how one intercepted transmission pushed George S. Patton to ignore protocol, gamble with his career, and launch operations that terrified his superiors, but reshaped the campaign in France. It reveals the core of Patton's philosophy. Forgiveness is easier to obtain than permission, and in war, speed outweighs every rule ever written. But that philosophy was about to collide with the most dangerous battlefield in Europe, the closing jaws of the Falaise Pocket, where one wrong move could destroy not only the enemy, but the fragile unity of the Allied armies themselves. By mid-August 1944, the Allied breakout from Normandy looked like a miracle. German forces were collapsing, roads across France choked with retreating columns, and Patton's Third Army was racing east faster than any modern army in history. But miracles create their own problems. Too many armies were moving at once, American, British, Canadian, French, all demanding fuel, ammunition, and roads that no staff officer could multiply by magic. At SHAEF headquarters, Eisenhower's planners fought a war of maps, trying to coordinate a machine larger than anything the world had ever seen. Every commander wanted the same thing: more supplies, more freedom, more permission to strike. So SHAEF created order the only way bureaucracies know how, through layers of classified plans. Operational directives were written at the highest level and distributed only to Army Group commanders. Men like Patton received filtered orders, stripped of the broader picture. To the staff, it made perfect sense. Too much information breeds confusion. Operational security demands silence. To Patton, it was madness. He believed a commander fought better when he could see the entire battlefield, when he could smell opportunity instead of waiting for permission typed by officers who had never heard a bullet snap past their ears. "Wars are won by men, not by paperwork," he once growled. So Patton did what Patton always did. He found a way around the rules. Third Army possessed one of the best signals intelligence units in the American forces. They intercepted German communications daily, reading the enemy like an open book. But radios do not choose whose voices they catch. Along with German traffic came Allied transmissions, messages bouncing invisibly through the air between SHAEF and Army Group headquarters. Technically, none of it was meant for Patton. Technically, reading it was a violation, possibly even illegal. Patton's view was simpler. If it's on the radio, it's fair game. Then came the message that changed everything. The legendary incident unfolded in the middle of August 1944, as the jaws of the Falaise Pocket were beginning to close around the German 7th Army. SHAEF transmitted a highly classified directive to the 12th Army Group, Bradley's command. The message outlined the grand design, which Allied forces would advance from which directions, where they were to halt to avoid fratricide, and how the trap would be sealed around tens of thousands of German soldiers. It was encrypted, secure from German ears, but not from American ones. Patton signals operators picked it up almost by accident. They decrypted it using Allied codes and quickly realized what they were holding. A blueprint of the campaign meant only for the highest level. The paper reached Patton's desk within the hour. As he read, the entire war shifted in his mind. The message revealed something explosive. Schaff expected Third Army to advance farther and faster than Patton's current official orders allowed. Other Allied forces were being told to halt at specific lines precisely because higher command assumed Patton would already be beyond them. Even more critical, Bradley was hesitating about closing the Falaise pocket too quickly. Coordination with British and Canadian forces was delicate, and caution was winning over speed. Patton saw what the staff in Paris could not. He saw Germans slipping away. He saw hours turning into lives. He saw a victory being strangled by paperwork. If we wait, he told his officers, we'll be fighting these same bastards in Germany next year. His staff stared at the message, and then at him. Sir, one officer said carefully, we're not supposed to have this information. We can't act on orders that weren't issued to us. Patton didn't even look up. What orders? He replied. I haven't received any orders. A pause. I'm simply exercising initiative based on the tactical situation. If my forces happen to be exactly where Schaff wants them, that's good military judgment, not insubordination. Classic Patton. Deniability wrapped in aggression. Within minutes, he began issuing commands. 8th Corps would advance toward Argentan, the southern hinge of the Falaise trap. Tanks rolled, fuel was allocated, entire divisions redirected. It wasn't a minor adjustment. It was a full-scale operational gamble built on information he had no right to possess. And if he was wrong, men would die, armies would collide, and Patton could face court-martial. But Patton had already made his calculation. Patton understood the risk better than anyone in the room. He knew exactly what he was doing and what it could cost. If the intelligence was outdated, his forces could drive straight into chaos. If Schaff's plans had changed, he might concentrate tanks where no support would arrive. If coordination failed, Allied units could collide in smoke and confusion. Worst of all, if anyone traced the decision back to that intercepted message, the consequences were clear. Intercepting and acting on classified communications meant for other commanders violated multiple regulations. In any other army, under any other general, it would have ended careers, possibly lives. But Patton had weighed the odds with ruthless clarity. First, he believed the intelligence was accurate. The operational plan made sense. Perfect sense, given the German collapse. Second, he believed speed mattered more than coordination. Every hour of delay gave the enemy time to escape the trap or regroup for counterattack. Third, he believed Bradley and Eisenhower would forgive the violation if it worked. Not publicly, not on paper, but quietly. Victory, Patton believed, erased sin. And if it failed, he had one final layer of protection, plausible deniability. He could always claim he acted on battlefield instinct, that he read the terrain, heard the guns, sensed weakness. Coincidence that his forces ended up exactly where Schaff wanted them. His staff wasn't comforted. They knew they were complicit. If this gamble collapsed, careers would be destroyed alongside reputations. Patton, by contrast, was calm. He understood something his officers did not. In war, success forgives everything. Failure condemns everything. So Third Army surged forward. Armor columns advanced at a pace that stunned even German commanders. Roads marked as future objectives fell overnight. Towns scheduled for capture days later were taken in hours. Within 24 hours, American tanks were occupying positions Bradley's staff hadn't expected them to reach for days. And at headquarters, someone finally noticed. The first calls came from Bradley's headquarters. Maps didn't lie. Third Army was suddenly far ahead of schedule. Too far, too fast, in places no one had ordered them to be. Staff officers flipped through the daily situation reports, trying to understand what they were seeing. Why is Patton so far forward? One asked. Did we miss an order? Phones rang. Messages crossed wires. Confusion spread through the command network like smoke. Finally, the radio crackled to life. Bradley himself got on the line. "George," he said, voice tight, "how did you know to advance toward Argentan?" Patton's answer came without hesitation. "I didn't know anything, Omar. I just attacked toward the sound of guns. Good tactics." A long pause. "Don't give me that," Bradley snapped. "You knew exactly where you were supposed to be." Patton let the silence stretch. "If I happen to be where you want me," he replied smoothly, "that's good generalship, not insubordination." Bradley was trapped. Patton had done precisely what the larger operational plan required, just faster, louder, and without permission. To order him to halt now would waste the advantage already gained. To investigate would expose the embarrassing truth that Patton had somehow read Chef's most guarded intentions. Pragmatism won. "Fine," Bradley said at last. "You're there now. Hold those positions and wait for the British to close from the north." Another victory for Patton, but the incident left scars. At Sheaf, alarms went off. If one general could intercept and act on orders meant for others, how could a multinational coalition maintain control? How could they coordinate armies from different nations if a single commander decided the rules didn't apply to him? Some officers demanded stricter security, encryption even between allies. Others wanted Patton formally reprimanded. Eisenhower faced the familiar dilemma: discipline or results. He chose results.